Margaret sat in her cozy living room, surrounded by stacks of boxes she'd been meaning to sort through for years. Each one held a piece of her life, a wedding photo album, her children's school projects, and even a collection of chipped mugs from long-forgotten vacations. She sighed, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of it all. Sound familiar? Decluttering isn't just about organizing your home. It's an emotional journey that can feel impossible to begin. But what if there was a way to make it easier? Today, we'll uncover the hidden challenges of decluttering, featuring stories from seniors like Margaret who turned chaos into clarity. Stay with us, because the first step might just surprise you. 1. Understanding the emotional attachment. Margaret's story isn't unique. Sentimental items often hold emotional weight, reminding us of loved ones, special moments, and even bittersweet memories. It's no wonder seniors find it hard to declutter. However, understanding why we hold on to these items can be a powerful first step. Margaret recalled the scarf her late sister had knitted for her. She hadn't worn it in years, but every time she saw it, it brought back memories of their laughter-filled evenings together. A professional organizer she consulted suggested she think about the purpose the scarf served now. Was it about warmth, or was it about remembering her sister? By reframing her attachment, Margaret realized that while the scarf was important, it wasn't the only way to honor her sister's memory. She decided to take a photo of it, then donate it to a charity where it could bring someone else comfort. It felt like a small step, but it lightened my heart, she shared. If an item feels too significant to let go, take a moment to reflect on its purpose. Could a photo, journal entry, or even sharing its story with a loved one preserve its meaning? This mindset shift can make parting with possessions less overwhelming. 2. Setting a manageable starting point. For Margaret, the enormity of the task was paralyzing. Her entire attic was filled with boxes, and every corner of her home seemed to hold something that screamed for attention. It wasn't until her neighbor, Susan, suggested starting small that Margaret found a way forward. Susan had faced her own decluttering battle years before. "I started with my kitchen junk drawer," she told Margaret. "It was one drawer, not the whole house. It made me feel like I could actually do this." Inspired, Margaret decided to tackle just one corner of her attic, a single box of books. She sifted through it slowly, sorting them into piles: keep, donate, and recycle. After a week, Margaret had cleared 3 more boxes. She realized breaking the task into smaller goals made it far less intimidating. "It gave me a sense of accomplishment every time I finished one box," she said. "Begin with one small area, like a drawer or a single shelf. Focus on just that and celebrate the progress. Completing even a tiny section can build momentum and motivate you to keep going." 3. Creating a memory box for treasured items. During her decluttering process, Margaret discovered a practical yet deeply emotional solution: creating a memory box. A friend had shared the idea with her, and it resonated instantly. Margaret could keep a curated selection of her most meaningful possessions without feeling overwhelmed by everything she owned. She found a sturdy, beautifully designed box at a local store. Carefully, she selected items to include her wedding photo album, a locket her grandmother had given her, and a handwritten letter from her late husband. She let go of items she loved but no longer needed, like duplicate photos or faded trinkets, knowing that the memory box would hold what truly mattered. "It became a treasure chest of my life," Margaret said, her voice filled with pride. "And it gave me permission to let go of other things that didn't hold the same meaning." Designate a memory box for your most cherished items. Limit its size to ensure only the most meaningful possessions are included. This approach provides a tangible way to preserve memories while freeing up space in your home. 4. Enlisting help from friends, family, or professionals. Margaret hesitated to ask for help. She didn't want to burden her family, and hiring a professional organizer seemed extravagant. But when her granddaughter Lily noticed her struggling to move a heavy box, she insisted on lending a hand. "Grandma, you've always been there for me. Let me be there for you now," Lily said warmly. With Lily's help, Margaret felt a newfound sense of ease and energy. They worked together to sort items, and Lily even took charge of donating the unwanted items. "I realized asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a way to connect with my family," Margaret reflected. "Don't be afraid to involve loved ones in the process. Many people, especially family, are eager to help and cherish the opportunity to share stories as they work alongside you. If family isn't an option, consider reaching out to friends or hiring a professional organizer who specializes in working with seniors." 5. Breaking the process into short, manageable sessions. Margaret quickly realized that trying to declutter for hours at a time wasn't feasible. She'd start with enthusiasm, but her energy would wane after just 20 minutes, leaving her feeling sore and frustrated. That's when Lily suggested a simple but transformative strategy: working in short, focused sessions. They set a timer for 15 minutes and tackled one small area at a time. "Knowing I didn't have to spend my whole day doing this made it so much easier to start," Margaret said. After the timer went off, they'd take a break, have some tea, and chat about the memories tied to the items they'd just sorted. By the end of the week, Margaret had completed more than she thought possible, all without feeling exhausted or overwhelmed. Break the decluttering process into short, manageable sessions. Set a timer for 15 to 30 minutes, work on one area, and then rest. Consistent, small efforts can yield big results over time and prevent physical burnout. 6. Setting up a clear sorting system. One of the biggest hurdles Margaret faced was figuring out what to do with everything. As the piles grew, so did her confusion. Where should these things go? Should she keep them, donate them, or toss them out? Without a system, her progress felt chaotic and disorganized. Enter the 4-pile method. With Lily's help, Margaret labeled 4 boxes: keep, donate, recycle, and trash. Everything she touched had to go into one of those categories. If she wasn't sure about an item, it went into a temporary revisit later box for decisions after she finished the main sorting. By the end of the weekend, Margaret's attic had transformed into neat sections, each pile representing clear next steps. "It was like a roadmap," she said. "I didn't have to think too much. I just followed the system." Create a simple sorting system to streamline your decluttering process. Label boxes or bags for different purposes, and commit to sorting every item into one category. This reduces decision fatigue and keeps the process organized. 7. Addressing the "what if I need this" mentality. Margaret pulled out an old bread maker from the box. It was a gift from her late husband, Jim, who always believed in trying new things together. They'd made fresh loaves for a while, but it hadn't been used in years. Still, Margaret hesitated. "What if I want to use it again?" she thought. This what-if mentality is common, especially when an item feels tied to a specific identity or memory. But Margaret realized something profound. The bread maker wasn't Jim. The memories they shared while using it lived in her heart, not in the appliance. With encouragement from Lily, she donated the bread maker to a community center. "Now someone else can create memories with it," she said. Margaret realized that letting go of the item didn't mean letting go of Jim's love or their time together. When an item triggers the what-if thought, ask yourself, have I used this in the past year? If not, consider how keeping it serves you now. Reflect on whether the memory tied to it can live on without the physical object. Often, donating the item to someone who can use it brings unexpected joy. 8. Honoring memories without holding on to physical items. Margaret opened another box and found stacks of her children's old art projects. There were macaroni collages, crayon drawings, and glitter-covered greeting cards. She smiled, but the thought of keeping every piece was overwhelming. I don't want to throw away their childhood, she thought. This is a challenge many seniors face, balancing nostalgia with practicality. Margaret found a solution in the form of a digital archive. Lily helped her scan the artwork, preserving the memories in a compact, accessible format. They even created a slideshow, which Margaret proudly displayed during family gatherings. I didn't lose anything, Margaret said. In fact, I gained the ability to share these memories with everyone. If physical items feel too important to part with, consider alternatives like digital archiving. Take photos, scan documents, or record short stories about the memories tied to each item. This approach keeps the sentiment alive without overwhelming your space. 9. Reframing. Decluttering as a gift to yourself and your family. The hardest part for Margaret was letting go of guilt. She worried about discarding gifts or heirlooms, fearing it might disappoint her family. One item, a set of china her mother had passed down, weighed particularly heavy on her heart. When she mentioned this to Lily, her granddaughter surprised her. "Grandma, I'd love to keep the china," Lily said, "but if it doesn't make you happy, that's okay too." Lily's response gave Margaret permission to think about decluttering in a new way, not as a loss, but as a gift. By thoughtfully distributing her treasures, Margaret realized she was sharing her legacy. She gave china to Lily, donated clothing to a women's shelter, and recycled paper she no longer needed. It felt like I was clearing a path for new memories, not just making space, she reflected. Reframe decluttering as a way to pass on your story and values. Communicate with loved ones to understand what they'd like to keep, and find joy in sharing meaningful items. This shift in perspective can turn a difficult task into a deeply fulfilling experience. 10. Creating a serene, clutter-free space. Margaret's living room had always been her favorite spot in the house. It was where she and Jim had spent countless evenings reading, where her children had played board games, and where she now enjoyed her quiet mornings with tea. Yet, over the years, it had become crowded with extra furniture, piles of magazines, and knickknacks that no longer served a purpose. One weekend, Margaret decided to reclaim the room. She moved out an old side table and donated a bulky armchair she rarely used. She left only her favorite, most functional pieces: her cozy armchair, a small side table for her tea, and a soft throw blanket. The transformation was immediate. "It's amazing how much lighter the room feels," she said. "It's like I can breathe more easily." Without the excess, Margaret's living room became a haven once again, a space she loved to spend time in. Choose one room in your home to transform into a clutter-free zone. Focus on removing items that aren't essential or meaningful, and let the remaining pieces shine. The result will be a space that feels open, calm, and inviting. 11. Discovering the value of quality. Over quantity, Margaret had a drawer in her kitchen overflowing with mismatched utensils and gadgets she hadn't used in years. Each time she opened it, she felt a twinge of frustration. Finding anything was a chore. So, inspired by her newfound appreciation for simplicity, she decided to pare it down. With Lily's help, Margaret sorted through the drawer, keeping only the high-quality, frequently used items. The cheap, duplicate, or worn-out tools were donated or discarded. What remained were a few well-made utensils that made her smile every time she used them. "I never realized how much joy comes from having just what you need and nothing more," Margaret said. Her kitchen became easier to use, and she felt more connected to the items she had chosen to keep. Evaluate areas of your home where clutter has accumulated and prioritize quality over quantity. Whether it's your kitchen, closet, or bookshelf, focusing on items that serve you well can bring unexpected satisfaction and ease to your daily life. 12. Celebrating progress, no matter how small. As Margaret walked through her home, she found herself marveling at the changes she had made. The attic was organized, her living room felt serene, and her kitchen was more functional than ever. She realized that the progress she had made was worth celebrating, even the smallest victories. To mark the occasion, Margaret hosted a small tea party for her family in her newly decluttered living room. She baked cookies, set out her favorite teapot, and shared stories about the process of letting go. Her family, inspired by her journey, praised her for the work she had done. It wasn't just about clearing out my home, Margaret reflected. It was about creating a space where I could be present and share moments with the people I love. Acknowledge and celebrate the progress you make, no matter how small. Whether it's a single organized drawer or a fully transformed room, each step forward is an achievement worth honoring. Sharing your journey with loved ones can make it even more meaningful. 13. Developing habits to prevent recluttering. Margaret learned that small habits could make a big difference. One day, while shopping with Lily, she spotted a beautiful vase that caught her eye. Before placing it in her cart, she paused and asked herself, "Do I truly have space for this? Does it add value to my life?" This practice of mindful purchasing became a cornerstone of her new lifestyle. Margaret committed to a one-in, one-out rule. For every new item she brought into her home, she would let go of something she no longer needed. This simple guideline kept her home from becoming overcrowded again. She also implemented a weekly habit of tidying up one small area in her home. Whether it was the kitchen counter or her bedside table, taking 10 minutes to keep things organized helped her maintain the calm she had worked so hard to achieve. Practice mindful purchasing by asking yourself if a new item truly adds value to your life. Use a one-in, one-out rule to maintain balance, and establish small, consistent habits to keep your space clutter-free. These habits will help preserve the peace and simplicity you've created. 14. Setting boundaries for acquiring new items. After decluttering, Margaret realized how easy it was to accumulate things she didn't truly need. She had a tendency to accept gifts, freebies, and hand-me-downs without considering their usefulness. But she also knew she needed to set boundaries, even if it meant gently declining well-meaning offers. When her neighbor offered her a box of old cookbooks, Margaret smiled and said, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm working on keeping my home simple. Maybe someone else would love these more." It felt empowering to say no without guilt. Margaret also started a gift wish list for her family, suggesting experiences or consumable items like theater tickets or a favorite snack instead of physical gifts. This allowed her to celebrate holidays and birthdays without adding to her possessions. Set clear boundaries for new items entering your home. Practice graciously declining things you don't need, and encourage loved ones to give non-material gifts. Creating these boundaries ensures your space remains a reflection of what truly matters to you. 15. Embracing a minimalist, intentional lifestyle. Margaret's decluttering journey ultimately taught her an important lesson. Simplicity isn't about having less. It's about making room for more. More time, more peace, and more joy. She started focusing on experiences rather than possessions, like inviting friends over for tea or spending an afternoon gardening. She also began to cherish the space she had created. The serenity of her home allowed her to focus on hobbies she loved, like reading and knitting. It's amazing how much lighter life feels when your surroundings reflect the calm you want in your heart, Margaret said. To stay intentional, Margaret kept a journal where she wrote about her goals and the things she was grateful for. This practice reminded her of why she had started her decluttering journey in the first place and motivated her to continue living simply. Embrace minimalism as a way to prioritize what truly matters in your life. Focus on experiences and relationships, and find joy in the space and time simplicity provides. Journaling or reflecting regularly can help you stay grounded in this intentional lifestyle. So, what's next? A decluttering superstar. You've got the tools, the tips, and Margaret's epic journey to inspire you. Now it's your turn to conquer that chaos and turn your space into a clutter-free paradise. Got a success story or need a little nudge? Drop it in the comments. We're all in this together.